and welcome to Short Stories with Sophia. I am Sophia, and I welcome thee to enjoy a cup of coffee with me. As I read to you a story I wrote entitled The Madison Avenue Deli. Enjoy. I lived in Midtown Manhattan for a few years. My second year was spent in the most angelic studio apartment on 38th Street and Madison Avenue. Though I only lived there for one beautiful year, it was one of the best years of my life. That year was a magnificent dream. I was studying acting at the time at an acting conservatory, which was an 8-minute walk from my place. Every day I made my way up and down Madison Avenue, admiring the uniqueness of my favorite city. The streets were my stomping ground, and every corner fascinated me. Even though my path was the same, I had a different experience every time I stepped outside of my apartment. I felt endless gratitude to be a young, independent spirit living my dreams to the fullest. The simplest to the most magnifying experiences that I faced fueled me with passion for life, and I cherished every waking day to be where I was. During this ever-changing year, my world was my complete oyster, as everything was at my fingertips. Everything I could ever need was walking distance from my precious home. I walked to get groceries, I walked to do laundry, develop my film, pick up a morning bagel or a bottle of wine and a meal for dinner time. My lifestyle was very pleasurable and simple, although there was one small thing I wish I had. A classic New York thing is to have your corner bodega or deli, and I mean corner. This idea is more common for New Yorkers living closer to downtown or the other boroughs. It's less common in Midtown, where I was planted. The closest bodegas to my apartment were a couple blocks away. There were many of them scattered outside of the perimeters of my streets, but not one around the corner that I could call mine. So I went to all of them here and there, but never habitually. This wasn't a huge deal at all, no, but I always had a subtle admiration for corner delis and how one could be friends with the owner and maybe their bodega cat too. That was common. I never had that experience, but always hoped for that moment to come. After my grand year on Madison Avenue, I moved back to my hometown in Los Angeles. My heart had been broken into a million pieces after bidding my apartment farewell. And, well, it took many months for me to settle back in LA and not dwell in the sadness that I no longer had New York. Eventually, I found the grace and magic of LA and came to firmly believe that New York will forever be a part of me and that it won't go anywhere. After one whole year of being an LA resident again, I took a trip back to the city for fun. I stayed with a few friends and spent each day to the fullest. It felt as if I never left. I was really anxious to visit my apartment again, though. I had created a vision in my mind that I would sense its magic again and weep forever. But when I found myself at the footsteps of my gorgeous former home, I was filled with immense joy. I did not cry, not one bit. Instead, I smiled uncontrollably. It still existed! Somehow. I had convinced myself that it was gone forever, but truthfully, it was and still is standing bright and beautifully. As much as I wanted to step foot inside of the apartment building, I couldn't. So I admired the structure from the outside and shared my gratitude for all the fond memories that I had made there. I bid my second farewell to that home, feeling hopeful for my future, knowing I made the right decision after all. As I walked away, something caught my eye, and I was briefly struck by lightning. To my surprise, there was a new bodega across the street at the corner of Madison Avenue and 38th Street. I could not believe it. After all this time, after living in New York for so long and hoping to have my own deli, the gods had finally granted my wish. They were just a year late. I felt a sense of jealousy and anger at the sight of this. I was jealous of every single person who was living in this neighborhood and could come to this deli any day at any time. I wanted to be them. I thought maybe if I stayed in New York for one more year, I could have experienced this gift. But no. My dream to have a corner deli came true, just right after I left. Of course I stepped inside of the deli to see what my life could have looked like. It was absolutely perfect. Not only did they have my favorite snacks, but they had a kitchen too. Standing there, daydreaming of this being my everyday commute, I began to cry. Even though I no longer lived on Madison Avenue, this deli felt like it was mine in some way. It felt familiar. I chatted with the owner, who was very sweet. I looked into his proud eyes and felt warm, envisioning that he and I would have been great pals if I had happened to stay in New York. As we talked, I was struck by lightning a second time. He told me that they were actually having their grand opening tomorrow. And this day in particular was a test run for the business, like a tech rehearsal before opening night. I was his very first customer. I couldn't believe it. I bought a bag of pretzels and Skittles and wished him and his team luck. I walked out of that deli overcome with relief and amazement. Could it be? Was this an omen? At first, I was angry to see such a special gem because I never had it when I lived here. But truthfully, even if I did stay another year, I still would not have seen this deli reach the light of day. So there I was, feeling grateful for how life works in miraculous ways. The deli wasn't meant to be there when I lived on Madison Avenue, but I was meant to be their first customer. That was a special moment for me. It stopped me in my tracks and allowed me to take a breath and clock how everything truly does happen for a reason. Someday, I will live in New York again. And when that day comes, it will probably be indefinitely. But when that day comes, I will be sure my apartment is next to a corner deli. That's my one and only condition. Well, maybe. And unit laundry, too. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this story. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful life. I hope to see you back. Tune in for more, because I got a lot of wonderful short stories to share with you all. So yeah, thank you very much, and just enjoy the rest of your day.